Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd.
I'm Rose, I'm the whiskey noob, and today we're trying something a little bit different.
That's right, we've come north of Dublin to Boann Distillery to visit what might be Ireland's most innovative craft whiskey distillery.
Let's go!
I'm Michael Walsh, I'm the head distiller here at Boann Distillery in Drogheda, County Meath.
What makes these stills here at Boann unique or special?
Well, the stills themselves here are the only distills in whiskey production that use nanotechnology, which increases the copper content by about 6 times or 6-fold. So copper is an essential part of whiskey distillation. The reason for that is the copper will strip out undesirable flavour profiles. As well, what's unique to us, we have reflux coils. It's a cooling system within the neck that allows us to affect the level of reflux, meaning that we can make very light distillate and very heavy, very meaty distillate under one set of stills.
And in terms of like the oats, the grains, the barleys, what actually is anything special about Boann's mash bill, what you're putting in?
Well, that's probably what we pride ourselves on most, in that the mash bill itself or the raw ingredients that we use. So in total we produced 35 distinctively different pot still recipes using unmalted barley, oats, wheat and rye. Between the mash bills and the heavy light and core distillate that we use and the cask, we produced over 100 different potentially different whiskey styles here.
In terms of the Whistler whiskey brand, how would you maybe position it in the Irish whiskey market?
What I'd like to think is that there's a very broad range within the range, everything from an introductory whiskey, there's something there for whether it's the Mosaic or something like the Calvados, is soft and sweet and approachable for newcomers. The biggest kind of pride I have about the Whistler range is that the quality that is there, while being accessible as far as the price point. Most of the range, in fact nearly all of the range, is in and around the €50 price point or less. So if you're looking to try something different or new that you haven't tried, I think you'll find it there. As far as the flavour profile, blending source stock is not something I had done. I've done a lot of blending and releasing whiskies before I arrived here at Boann, but it's something I've actually really enjoyed. It's one of the most enjoyable parts, taking something that another, maybe two or multiple other distillers have created with maybe a particular aim in mind, and then maybe flipping that on its head or pushing it in another direction by blending with a distillate from another distillery. Nobody that would have been part of the original production of those distillates would have ever envisaged that that's the route it would have ended up taking. But yeah, the idea hopefully of creating something that's greater than a sum of its parts and changing and bringing something new to the category is something that I've really enjoyed, and hopefully that's what people find if they do taste from some of the Whistler range. Over the course of all of the processes, you see there's over 1,000 bits of information that are being, literally thousands of bits of information are being relayed back in live time. We can control basically every valve, every pump, every motor in the facility from a click of a mouse. This is our mash conversion vessel. It's actually coming towards the end of the transfer, and something small can throw everything else out of kilter. So I found that's the biggest advantage of the automation, not the fact that you can control a valve from the click of a button. It's as easy to go and turn the pump on as it is to click your mouse here, relatively speaking, but it's the fact that I know every single thing that's happening in the facility without having to run to every single part of the or the four corners of the distillery. So it's about consistency. A good distillery or a good head distiller or team of distillers are those that are consistent. You're never going to achieve perfection, but the closer you get to perfection is by doing those consistent things. We fill the equivalent of about 18 or 19 of these bourbon barrels per day, 7 days a week, although it's not, we fill in batches, so we'll build up about 4 spirit distillations together, about 2 or 3 days worth, and then fill for a day and so on. So that's simply rejected because there was leaks. Most likely looks like there's a poor bung hole here, but irreparable leak. Generally speaking, most barrels, because they go through a coopers before they get here, they're pretty good. Another reason that they could be rejected is something's coming from Europe in this heat can turn to, like, some of the fortified wine could turn vinegar, or like a kind of an undesirable character starts to come through.
Yeah.
So this is a bourbon. They're far less likely to, because it's a spirit, it doesn't really give off notes. So they're far less likely for flavour profile, and it's just a case of leak. It might have cracked while it was being transported over the sea.
Oh, wow.
You can see where they've taken apart the barrel. In some cases they might have replaced the whole stave, but it's shaved down.
How do you decide that you actually want to use one of the barrels? Because you could get like 100 of these. Do you just go around like smelling the inside, or or is there things that you check for?
It's hard for us and it's hard for anybody to specifically go around all of these wineries or bodegas or producers and try all these casks. We have a cask supplier, Alex Socron, who is kind of like a middleman. We have a great degree of trust that he can source very good barrels, but we will, generally speaking, take in some barrels first. Like, so if we're getting a load of sherries that we know we're getting or something from him that we've used before, and then he said, here, look, I have some amazing Recchiato, you have to try it. We'll get a barrel or two over, we'll see, and then decide to go beyond that. We source from sustainable suppliers. A lot of the American oak and so on, it's all from sustainably managed forests. But on top of that, what we do here in Ireland, we've committed to planting 2,000 oak and native trees here per annum for the foreseeable. Yeah, sustainability is very big part of, I think it's something we're very conscious of as a company, and we're very proud to have been the first distillery to achieve Origin Green Gold status here for sustainability. Whiskey can be produced, and it can be particularly damaging because you're chopping down oak and you're generating heat and so on, and so you can do it sustainably, or you can choose not to do it very sustainably. But thankfully we're not the only ones. There are others that are getting on board with similar projects, and that's very encouraging to see.
So this here room is going to be the maturation warehouse for the whiskey once they have it all finished. So it's a little bit of a behind the scenes peek right now, but this is going to be one amazing setup.
It's huge. They've got loads of room to do, a lot of expansion, a lot of new things. So really exciting to see what this big old empty space will be in the future. So we've heard a little bit about this Talnua bit that's going on here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The guys, Talnua is an American distillery based in Colorado. You might recognise the Colorado flag here. We are keen to collaborate with like-minded producers where possible. The Talnua project here is one particularly interesting project we did with them, is that they're actually a pot still whiskey producer based in America. So we actually gave them one of our mash bills, our core mash bill that we make most frequently, and they distilled the exact same mash bill as we did, and then they put it into casks, literally the exact same second, but in Colorado. So the idea will we will monitor how our whiskey evolves and their whiskey evolves at the exact same time, but just in the differences in climate.
Do you have any thoughts about how it might turn out? Because Colorado is not only like the high entrance altitude, but they have quite extreme winters. Like, will that?
There's potential that it will mature faster, but faster as in it will take certain characteristics up. But the maturation does a couple of things, and to be a complete whiskey, it's not just a case of taking on a lot of flavour profile. It's rounding off the whole whiskey. But it'll be an interesting thing, and it's always, like I said, interesting to create something like this that you're actually have an interaction, because they're guys that the guys in Talnua are people that they're passionate about possible whiskey. We want to collaborate where possible with people that have a like-minded passion or enthusiasm for the product that they produce. So it'll be interesting to keep that interaction going for the coming years, and to taste, of course, as we go along the way, will be a fun experiment, if nothing else. So we'd like to think the stuff here in Ireland would be a little better, but who knows?
Well, it sounds like a really fun experiment. Can't wait to find out more about it.
And we've just finished up now with Michael Walsh, youngest head distiller in Ireland from Boann Distillery, and we're going to have a chat with Pat Cooney, the founder of Boann Distillery now.
I'm so excited, it'll be really interesting. you've been involved in the drinks industry pretty much your whole life. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got here today to owning your own distillery?
Well, I qualified as an accountant in 1968 and I went to London to study economics, but a little bit restless, a little bit young, a little bit ambitious, having no money in a fast car, I became involved in a very small wholesale business down in Borrisley in County Tipperary. So we were starting at the very bottom.
Yeah.
So we started at the bottom and we worked our way up. At least since over the space of the next 30 odd years, became the largest wholesaler in Ireland. So I had 150 people, 300 million turnover, but it was all in the domestic economy. And I always wanted to have a distillery for myself, but because I was involved in the drinks industry, I picked up lots of bits and pieces as I went along. So when I spec'd the distillery here, I spec'd it specifically for pot still.
Okay.
Because within the Irish whiskey market, or the Irish whiskey industry, as you know, mostly malt,
Yeah.
but pot still is still the quintessential Irish whiskey and is what Irish whiskey used to be when Ireland dominated the world whiskey market up until 1920.
When you were starting up your distillery, you chose to do it in the Boyne Valley. Can you tell us a little bit about like what was behind that decision?
So there was about 80, in 1888 there was about 80 distilleries in Ireland,
Okay.
all producing whiskey, all with different mash bills, all doing their own thing, some of them exporting, some of them not. But a gentleman called Aeneas Coffey, who was a tax excise officer here in Drogheda, invented something called the column still, or the coffee still, and this was a way of continuous distillation, so it was a lot cheaper than the traditional 3-pot still system for making Irish whiskey.
Right.
So that was really the start of the decline of the Irish whiskey industry. That was followed on quite quickly by Prohibition in 1919,
Yeah.
and of course the American market was closed to Irish whiskey. That was a really big market for them, and things got so bad that in 1966 the 4 Irish distilleries that remained
Yeah.
merged and became Irish distillers. So now there's only one distillery or distillery group in Ireland. Why did I come to Drogheda? Well, I'm from Drogheda.
I thought so.
And as I said earlier, there's a long history of whiskey
Yeah.
and drink here in Drogheda. And when I was a chap, there was Kearns Brewery and there was Preston's Distillery.
Yes.
And one of the first things we did was we registered the name Preston's.
Okay.
And Preston's was related to the Jemison family. And in fact, the Jemisons lived here in Drogheda for a while.
Yeah.
So it was a very close association.
Okay.
So that's partly why I came back to Drogheda, but also because we got this very nice building
Right.
and we decided to convert it into a distillery. And at this moment in time, we're halfway through to the finished project, which will not alone house our very fine distillery,
Yes.
but also a visitor centre, our own maturation warehouses, our own dining hall, and then we're going to the special section for special casks. So that's why I'm back at Drogheda.
Well, it sounds like you chose a great place for it.
I think so.
Good. After filming the interview with Pat, we actually were having so much fun with the lads down at Boann that we kind of forgot to film an ending to the video. So here we are today.
Yeah, so we just wanted to say big thanks to everyone at Boann and to Sally Ann Cooney for kind of letting us show up, letting us film, letting us kind of get around the distillery.
And then to the man himself who actually gave us a very long and very interesting tour around the distillery was Michael, the head distiller down at Boann. Thank you so much. It was so interesting. It was helpful giving us the tour. It was just such an amazing, fun-filled day.
Yeah, it was really great to see behind the scenes like of a new distillery, of seeing what they're doing and what their plans are.
Yeah.
I mean, they have got some really good things coming down the line. They've got their own whiskey that they've distilled themselves coming out soon. I mean, in the meantime, they've got whiskeys and gins that you're able to pick up. Very nice stuff, but really cool to see the future of the distillery.
Yeah, and also they're cool people working on sort of this whiskey revival in a way, you know? So not only is the whiskey good, but the people are cool too.
Yeah, so I think that's about the end of the video. I think that's everything we need to say.
Yeah, and if you are new here, just hit subscribe. We've got loads more videos and we'll have more in the future as well. So some fun things coming your way.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye-bye.